What's up, my hunting brothers and sisters? Today I'm going to give you my little over 1 year long-term thoughts and review on my 25-gallon FIMCO ATV sprayer that I bought in the early summer of 2020, and what I use it for on my food plots, my yard, and just various other applications in my life. So stay tuned. So in May or June or so of 2020, I believe it was, I bought this 25-gallon FIMCO sprayer. I did a review video on it last year, gave my initial thoughts. Since then, and that video's had a lot of traction, but since then I've had a couple people reach out to me and say, hey, how do you feel about it now that after you've used it for quite a while? Because this was, as I recall, a $300-ish, maybe more investment. I don't remember exactly what I paid for this. So I'm going to kind of give you a walk around and my thoughts on this unit. Okay, so again, if you've seen my previous review video, then you know that this is like an 11-foot wide, I believe it was, boom sprayer made from FIMCO Industries. It's got a 25-gallon tank on it. It's got 7 spray heads, and I put it on the back of my Honda Rancher. Now, the whole boom folds up and in on itself, so it basically is barely wider than my ATV is when it's all folded up. One of the things I've really enjoyed about this thing is how big the fill opening is. I mean, it's got this big, large lid and opening, so pouring in your chemicals is pretty easy without needing funnels or anything, and for the most part you can avoid making a mess. Spray wand, it's not the longest hose in the world. I think it's maybe 10 feet, maybe, I don't know, longer than 15 feet. But not too bad. Some days I wish it was longer, but other days I think that's long enough, because if it was longer, that coil would be much larger on the unit itself. And you could always replace that hose with longer hose if you wanted. It's just hose. Now I will say that early on I had a leak, and I think I reported that, as I recall, in my first video, but it was one of these 90-degree fittings. I can't remember which one it was, but it was one of these fittings, and it was actually dripping water and chemicals down over the pump. And I found out after the fact what was causing it is these 90-degree fittings are designed such a swivel, and if you take them off and you look inside of here, there is an Allen head up in there that you can actually tighten this fitting down internally. It's really hard to see, but in there's an Allen shaped head, and you can tighten that fitting down. To FIMCO's credit, actually, I had sent them a couple emails, didn't get a response on it, because I thought maybe the fitting was broke, and reached out to Tractor Supply. They were no help whatsoever, none. Ended up calling customer service at FIMCO and got great response. I don't know why I wasn't getting email response, but definitely did with their phone number. And they explained to me that those do tighten down, and they apologized. They said that they were supposed to be factory tight. And the reason I called them was it dripped enough chemicals on here that it actually got in here and it corroded the motor on the pump. So what they actually did was they not only sent me a couple spares of these 90-degree fittings, which I've never used because once I tightened the one down it quit leaking, but they sent me the entire, I told them just send me the motor for the pump. You don't need to send me the pump. They sent me the entire assembly, everything. They did not send a new header, but they sent everything you see here that mounts up to it. And so I just had to swap it out. It literally was a 10-minute change out job, and they sent it free of charge. It took maybe 3-4 days to get here. So I thought that customer service was incredible, and I wouldn't have needed to do it if it hadn't been for that leaking fitting, which should have been tight from the factory, but wasn't. Somebody messed up, and somebody I saw on a comment of one of my videos on this said that they experienced the same thing. So if you buy one of these, just check those. Just make sure they're snug enough to get these so they just barely turn. That's it, and they don't leak, and I've never had another issue with this. One of the things I didn't do, and I talked about this in my first video, was I did not connect this directly to the battery, which is underneath the seat on this ATV, because I don't have clearance. So I ended up going to the old cigarette lighter style, 12-volt style of connector. And on my ATV, I have a 12-volt plug-in right here that's hot when the key's on. And so I basically ran the whole thing up here and plug it in there. My switch to turn on and off is right there, so I can turn the whole pump on and off with no issues whatsoever. The other thing I mentioned in my first video that I didn't like was I wish this sump area right here could somehow sit lower. It basically, you can see it's flat with the bottom of the tank, and so your takeoff is an inch or so up. So if you get sloshing around when the water or the chemicals is say right about here, you'll get gaps where it won't pick up. And it would be so nice if there was a way to have a sump area that was recessed down in this. But when I get down to the edge, especially if I've got a hillside, I try and keep this side down, and then I get good takeoff. So of 25 gallons, it literally is no problem spraying until you get down to the last about 3 or 4 gallons in the tank. So I'd say even though it's a 25-gallon tank, it really is more effectively a 20-gallon tank. All right, so after 1 year of using this sprayer, do I think it is a definite buy at the $300-ish that it costs? Would I buy it again? And the answer is heck yes. Actually, I do. It's been very reliable. I've used this thing to spray my lawn for dandelions and clovers and other weeds. Not that I'm a lawn particular guy, but I don't like dandelions for whatever reason in my yard, so I spray it, and I mow about 5 acres, and it does a great job. One tank full gets my entire lawn. It's perfect. I use it on my food plots, and it's been amazing. I've used the hose sprayer a lot in, say, my landscaping around my house, getting rid of weeds. I've used it multiple times on my pond and sprayed copper sulfate on my pond to get rid of some of that vegetation. It's been great. So yes, I would buy it again. Did I have a hiccup? Yes, I did have a hiccup. Customer service took care of it. I mean, that was awesome. I would recommend, if you need customer service, to call them, don't email. Just call them and be done with it. They were great. My only real criticism is that sump area. I wish it was deeper, but it is what it is. You just learn that you don't have a full 25 gallons always to work with. You know, you're good for 24, and then you got to finesse that last little bit out of the tank. Outside of that, I love it. I don't know what else I can say more about this thing than that. So go pick one up if you're in the need for a sprayer for the uses I've talked about and you got an ATV. Yeah, I think it's a good deal. So, as always, God bless, stay safe, and it's a new day in the outdoors.